the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, New York Giant fans, and welcome to another edition of Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast family, your team every day. Patricia Traina here with you, and thank you to everybody who checked out the Locked On Giants podcast on the YouTube channel. We do have a new YouTube channel, and for those of you who are still listening to us on Odyssey and iTunes and Google Play, I will put that information for you in the show notes. But thank you to everybody who has checked it out for the feedback. So far, the feedback's been tremendous, very warm, very welcoming, and it means a lot to me since this is really a new experience for me, a new venture, and something I'm still trying to learn to navigate and make sure that I deliver engaging content while at the same time giving you something of a interesting presentation with graphics, title cards and all that good stuff. So thank you everybody for the feedback. On today's show, we are going to talk about the scrimmage. The Giants have their Fanfest Scrimmage on Wednesday evening. It'll be at MetLife Stadium. And it's going to be great to get back into the stadium with a crowd. I mean, for me personally, last year covering the games without the crowd, really weird, but the stadium will be open to the first 50,000 people. There'll be fireworks. They're going to have all kinds of events going on. So I know a lot of fans are looking forward to it. It's the only practice of the year during summer, that is, that will be open to the fans. And I hope whoever's going, I hope you enjoy it. I hope the weather holds up. And I just hope it's a fun night for everybody. So that said, on today's show, I have for you 9 things that I am going to be looking for in this scrimmage. So we're going to do 3, 3, and 3 in the upcoming 3 segments. And these are 9 things that I am going to be watching for. And I'm sure the Giants are going to be watching for as they go through the workout. The first thing is the offense. Now, the Giants, just to give you guys a little bit of a background here, the Giants at training camp practices, what they have been doing most of the practices is they've been working on the far end of the field, away from the prying eyes of the media. So we can only see so much. And a lot of times, if we want to see like the 11-on-11 stuff, there's usually a wall of bodies in front of us, which makes it hard for us to see exactly what's going on and what they might be trying. That is not going to be the case, I don't believe, this time around. I think the media is going to be up in the press box, which means we'll have a sideline view of what's going on, just as we would for a game. And we'll be better able to tell a little bit about the different concepts, the different things that they are trying on offense, and what kind of success rate they are having with it. Now, we know that there will be several players who won't participate in the team portion of the practice. They will include Saquon Barkley, despite the fact that he was activated on Monday. We will not see Kenny Golladay, who is nursing that hamstring strain. And we might not see a few other guys. It depends on the workload management. Some of those guys may or may not play, depending on their workload management. We'll find out a little bit more on that probably Wednesday when we do our media sessions with head coach Joe Judge in the afternoon. But in terms of the offense, what I want to see is, will there be more deep vertical concepts? Will there be more routes run to the outside of the numbers, more slants, more curls? What exactly are they going to be working on? And just as an FYI, just because they're working on a specific thing in the scrimmage that gets reported doesn't mean that that's going to make it into the playbook for the regular season. Training camp is a time to experiment, to try out new things, to see how different guys look in certain packages. I'm going to be looking for different personnel packages, how they're deployed, and what do they seem to favor when I watch the scrimmage on Wednesday night. So that's item number 1 that I will be looking for. Item number 2 is the running back rotation. Now, we all know Saquon Barkley was just activated on Monday. All right. But he is probably not going to take part in the scrimmage, in the team part of the scrimmage. I think we will see him in the individual drills and maybe some, maybe one-on-one stuff, but I don't think we will see him on 7-on-7s and 11-on-11 stuff. So I'm curious to see if Corey Clement, who has gotten quite a lot of snaps so far this summer, probably more than I thought he would get. I wonder if he's going to get some more snaps than Devonta Booker, or how they're going to be used exactly. Is Clement going to be the outside run, outside the numbers type of guy, and Booker in between the tackles, or are they going to mix things up? So that's something I want to see, is how they plan to use those guys in the offense, in the running game, especially if they don't anticipate they're going to have Saquon Barkley to handle a full workload for week 1 of the season. This could be very telling what they might be thinking in terms of how they're going to deploy guys. All right. Item number 3, the offensive line. Probably should have made that item number 1, but item number 3 is the offensive line. So Shane Lemieux probably won't take part in the team drills, but they anticipate, of course, having the other guys in there, Andrew Thomas, Matt Parrott at the tackles, Will Hernandez, and I think Kenny Wiggins will step in for Lemieux, and Nick Gates at center. So what will that offensive line look like? They're going to be going first team offensive line against first team defense. And the defense, the pass rush in particular, this summer has looked pretty sharp, all things considering. They've been able to get pressure. They've been able to penetrate. They've been able to give the offense headaches. So if ever the offensive line was going to start to put things together, it would be nice if they did it earlier, but it would really be nice if they could do it on Wednesday against their own players before they take on the Jets, which usually has a pretty good pass rush in Saturday night's preseason matchup. So the offensive line, and then we'll also see the offensive line rotation, which right now is a little thin, surprisingly. Jonathan Harrison, the center, hasn't been able to practice due to an undisclosed injury. We all know Joe Looney retired, Zach Fulton retired. So they have a lot of now inexperienced younger guys, some veterans in there mixed in, but that backup offensive line, I think, is as much of a concern as the starting unit. And that group needs to have a solid showing. No penalties, no false starts, no mistakes. Just they need to bring it all together and just deliver the goods, because thus far in the majority of the practices, I can't honestly say that the offensive line has looked solid. So some concerns there on my part for that offensive line, but hopefully it starts to come together for them. It would be nice if it did so in the scrimmage game coming up. All right, Giant fans, we have 6 more items still to come on this edition of the LockedOn Giants podcast, in which we are breaking down what the 9 things are that I'm going to be looking for when the Giants have their Fanfest scrimmage on Wednesday evening. So before we get to the next batch, let me tell you about Bet Online. Get all the latest news, odds, info, and sign-up bonuses for all your sporting needs by heading over to Bet Online on your laptop or mobile device. When you open an account and use our special promo code LOCKEDON, you will receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Again, that's code LOCKEDON for your 50% welcome bonus. Terms and conditions apply. Bet Online, your online sportsbook experts. All right, Giant fans, continuing our look at the 9 things I will be watching for at the Giants Fanfest scrimmage. It's going to be about a 2-hour scrimmage, not straightforward scrimmage from start to finish. There's going to be some individuals. There'll be warm-ups. There'll be some 7-on-7, and then there will be team portions put together. So the team stuff, the 11-on-11, the 7-on-7 stuff, these are some of the things I will be looking for. So let me give you items number 4, 5, and 6 on my 9-item list. And item number 4 is quarterback Daniel Jones. Now, with Daniel Jones, so far, I wouldn't go so far as to say that his camp has been awful. I would describe it more as being inconsistent. All right. There have been days when he's looked sharp, and there have been others when he just hasn't. So I keep, saying this on my podcast and in my articles. There are two things that I'm going to be looking for from Daniel Jones, especially, starting in the scrimmages and starting when they play the preseason games. The two things are as follows: ball security. Okay. Can't have fumbles. That has got to go from his game. But more importantly, how quickly is he making decisions? All right. Now, remember, the Giants defense is building up to play more man coverage, and they were masters of disguises last year. Simply put, they were really good at disguising their coverages. And this was something that I thought Daniel Jones had trouble with last year. So I'd like to see how he does in deciphering what they do, what the defense is doing, and are the Giants going to use some pre-snap motion maybe to flesh out what the defense is doing? But above all, I want to see Daniel Jones get the ball out of his hands in about 2.5 seconds or less. I want to see him, be decisive with the ball. Don't stand back, don't drop back and pat the ball and, jump up and down, hop, do that little hop and dance and whatnot. Drop back, know where you're going with the ball, and get it out of your hand. So that's something in particular I want to see from Daniel Jones. It's just that expedited sense of, okay, this is where we're going with the ball, and this is where I want to hit the receiver on the numbers. All right. So that's going to be important too. And Daniel Jones, again, the accuracy this summer, at times it's been good and at times not so good. So we need to start seeing it be good more often than not moving forward. All right. Item number 5 on my list of 9 things I want to see at the Giants scrimmage is the pass rush packages. Now, I'm not anticipating sophisticated blitzes. I'm not anticipating anything that's going to be flavored. It's going to be vanilla, because obviously, there's going to be fans in the stands, and I don't think the Giants are going to want people, repeating what they're doing on the field. That said, there are certain alignments that you want to see. For example, who's going to be coming off the edges. And right now, the edges, I might add, those guys are still a little banged up. Lorenzo Carter, will he be able to take part in it? O'Shane Ximenez, who was just activated off PUP on Monday, is he going to be able to do anything? Azeez Ojulari, how are they going to deploy him? Are they going to be using stunts and twists? I don't know that they'll get that sophisticated, certainly not for a scrimmage, but I just want to see the different alignments. Are they going to play Leonard Williams where they played him last year, mostly as that 5 technique guy, or are they going to move him around? We might see some of that. And I'm curious to see what that all is going to look like with defensive coordinator Patrick Graham. And then the other thing, just keeping in line with the pass rush, is the back end of the defense. Can those guys hold their coverage long enough to where maybe now the defensive front, the front 7, is going to be able to get in there and create more pressures? Because last year, if you watched the Giants, and I know if you are listening to this, you probably did, the Giants, a lot of times the pass rush just barely missed bringing down the quarterback. Maybe it was by a split second or two. And I think now that they have improved the defensive secondary, they're going to have a better chance at potentially bringing down the quarterback. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do in that regard, because I want to see how that pass rush looks like, especially with the addition of the improved cornerbacks and defensive backs, and how they're going to play maybe more man coverage than zone. Speaking of the defense, item number 6 on my list is, how are they going to deploy all those defensive backs? All right. Now, we know James Bradbury is going to be a starter. We know Adoree Jackson's going to be a starter. Darnay Holmes and Julian Love have been working in the slot, so I imagine they're going to see some split some reps. But what about the rest of the guys? Where does Sam Beal fit in? Where does Madre Harper fit in? Where does Isaac Yadam fit in? Will Jaron Williams, who's been sidelined the last couple of days, will he be able to go? So the Giants are going to have some decisions at the bottom of the depth chart to make, and especially at that cornerback spot. And then also, will we see maybe Julian Love at corner? Will we see Logan Ryan at corner? There's just so much versatility back there. And I'm curious to see if a particular pattern emerges as far as personnel packages and how the Giants deploy those guys, because right now there's a lot of options. And if you're defensive coordinator Patrick Graham, you're probably sitting there and you cannot wait to go out there and put all those options out there and just see what's going to work and what isn't going to work and just have fun with it. So, all right, Giant fans, we have 3 more items to go through on this list. But first, got to tell you about my favorite low carb, low sugar, and high protein treat. That's right. I'm talking about Built Bar. It will satisfy your sweet tooth. I love it because it's got pure milk chocolate, and I have a sweet tooth, and it's like eating a candy bar for me, even though I know it's not a candy bar. It tastes like one. So again, low carb, low sugar, high protein, very filling, 9 terrific flavors, nut and nut-free variety, and they have some limited time flavors available. They're constantly changing it up, so you can never go wrong. And they're really creative with some of the flavors that they do bring out. They've had great things like cheesecake flavors, lemon meringue, grasshopper, really some clever flavors out there. So anyway, for a limited time, when you go to builtbar.com, you can get 15% off your first order with the promo code LOCKED15. That's LOCKED15 at builtbar.com. Head on over, put together your own personal box, enjoy, and let me know what your favorite flavor is. I know I like the chocolate mint ones, so I find them really, really good. It's like eating a York peppermint patty without the extra sugar. So typical, right? Patty, York peppermint patty. So, all right, Giant fans. So check them out. Again, that's builtbar.com. All right, Giant fans, we have 3 more things on the list of what I will be watching at the Giants scrimmage at Fanfest on Wednesday evening. And these 3 things are pretty much, it's not really offense or defense related, just kind of like X factors, if you will. Item number 7 is the coaching tempo and communication. Now, last year, I thought the Giants coaches did a pretty good job with regards to communication, when to call a timeout, when to call for a challenge, all the little sideline things we kind of take for granted that are so important. Clock management, I don't have to tell you, that's very important in the game. And sometimes we have seen in the past, the Giants haven't been very good at that. So I'm going to be looking to see how that goes along. And I know Joe Judge is going to be looking to see how that goes along. And he'll probably have the best view of that because, he'll be on the headset. And, will the coach, which coaches will be upstairs in the press box, which ones will be downstairs? I think last year, if I remember correctly, Jason Garrett was down on the sideline, and I believe Pat Graham was also down on the sideline. So is that going to change? Are they going to maybe move some guys upstairs, downstairs? How's that going to work? So that will be something I'll try and put the binoculars on to see who's on the sideline, who isn't on the sideline. Joe Judge does have a very big staff. I think he's got something like 24 assistants. I don't see all 24 of them on the sideline. I just don't see that. So that'll be curious to see how they divide that up. The other thing I'll be curious to see is, again, clock management. I'm sure there will be specific scenarios that they put on the clock, whether it be a 2-minute offense, a 4-minute offense, whatever the case might be. And I'm curious to see how that tempo goes with the play calling, getting the plays in and out of the sidelines to the huddles and just getting them, set up. All right. Item number 8, and this is a big one. Fans in the stands. That's right. I mentioned at the top of the program that 50,000 fans are going to be admitted to the Fan Fest. Now, that is not capacity for MetLife Stadium. I think the stadium can hold over 78,000, I want to say. But the significance here is the Giants players and coaches have spoken about the energy that they get from the fans. So I would expect, with the fans returning to the stadium for the first time since the pandemic began, that the energy levels are going to be off the charts. Now, what kind of effect will, having the smiling faces, the clapping, the cheering, the yelling from the fans, what kind of effect will that have on the adrenaline of these guys? Will they play at a higher tempo? Will they, be shocked because, they basically have been playing in silence the last year or so? How's that going to affect them? And above all, it's just so much better with the fans. I think I mentioned last year how weird it was to just be in the stadium and just kind of hear echoes coming off the empty seats, and knowing that there were supposed to be people in there and there just wasn't. So, speaking for myself as a member of the media, I like having fans in the stands because it just generates energy. And if I like it, I can just imagine what the athletes who are actually being watched by those fans must feel about it. It does generate energy, electricity, and it's a great rehearsal, if you will, for the regular season opener, or actually the preseason opener, when the Giants take on the Jets Saturday evening, for those who are planning to go. So that'll be a good opportunity for everybody to kind of, feel it out and see how it goes. And I'm looking forward to it. So, all right. Item number 9, the last item on my list of 9 things I'll be looking for at the scrimmage. Special teams. We don't talk about it enough, but who's going to handle the kicking? Who's going to handle the punting? Who are the gunners going to be? How are special teams going to look? Who's going to be the return specialists? These are all questions that we need to kind of get answers to. Graham Gano, obviously he's going to be the place kicker, but is it going to come down to Ryan Santoso or Riley Dixon at punter? Who are going to be the gunners? Is it going to be Cam Brown and CJ Board? Is it going to be CJ Board and somebody else, or 2 totally different guys? Those are important roles because, we spoke of how last year the gunner play was not consistent. So this is an opportunity to try and identify who some of those candidates can be at gunner. The return specialists. John Ross has been working as a returner. Adoree Jackson has done a little bit of it. Kadarius Toney has fielded a few. Who's going to be the guy at kickoff and punt return? That's going to be interesting. And I would expect the Giants are going to rotate different guys in there and just give them as many opportunities as they can. But ultimately, as the Giants move to the preseason games starting Saturday, they're going to want to start finding answers to all these questions that I presented to you on this 9-part list of what I'm going to be looking for in the scrimmage. How much of it they'll actually cover? Well, that we won't know until we actually see it. But this much I do know, Giant fans. On Thursday, I will have a show for you. It'll probably be a little late, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a recap of the findings, and I'll use this list as a basis to talk about my findings and my observations. So that show will be out on Thursday. I will also have coverage on Giants Country if you want to read some of that, until I can get to the video part. But really excited. The bottom line is football is back and it's sort of returning to normal. And I am really looking forward to bringing you all the observations. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in to this edition of the LockedOn Giants podcast. To my YouTube folks, like and subscribe to my channel. If you have questions, drop them in the comments below. I'll take a look and I'll answer them as best as I can. And we will be back with a new edition of the LockedOn Giants podcast on Thursday. So until then, everybody, have a great one.